When you look past the public arguments, showboating, and countless other controversies, Terrell Owens is statistically one of the most dominant receivers in the history of the NFL. But just how good was T.O. really? Terrell Owens was born in the Deep South small town of Alexander City, Alabama. Owens grew up poor and incredibly lonely. His grandmother spent most of the time raising him as Terrell's mother worked multiple jobs. So, being overprotective of young Terrell, his grandma didn't allow him out of his home much, unless it was to church or school. The competition of sports became a safe haven for Terrell. Despite finding his first love on the court and lettering in 4 sports, Owens was unstoppable on the gridiron. Being from a small Alabama town, T.O. was passed over by bigger colleges. He ended up signing with the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga because they allowed him to play football and basketball. At Chattanooga, Owens had a unique college career. He played for the Mocs basketball team as a guard in the 1995 NCAA tournament, anchored Chattanooga's 4x100 relay team at the NCAA championship, and was a 3-year starter at receiver. Because he overpowered such small school competition, Owens was looked over by every NFL team. His name wasn't called until the 89th overall pick in the 3rd round, but T.O. could care less. He was about to be a 49er and got to play alongside his childhood idol, Jerry Rice. Once he hit the NFL, his talent could no longer be hidden from the world. A big-body receiver with elite agility, glue for hands, and a chore to tackle in the open field, Owens exploded into the league. He made an immediate impact with Steve Young throwing him the ball. In Owens' second year, Rice was knocked out with a season-ending injury. Owens stepped up, pulling in 60 receptions as San Fran's top target. T.O. started to come out of his shell as his game grew even better. With his first 1,000-yard season came the glimpses of crazy touchdown celebrations. But it would take a wild-card playoff game against the hated Green Bay Packers to truly show what Owens was made of. The Packers dominated the rivalry, winning the last 3 playoff matchups against the Niners, and Terrell Owens struggled worse than he ever had, dropping numerous passes and fumbling a ball away in the biggest game of his career. But Young still believed in Owens. 8 seconds left, he heaved the ball into T.O.'s direction with 2 Packers draped all over him. Somehow, someway, Owens came down with the ball and won the game. He didn't celebrate. A lot of that later, don't worry. The emotion of the moment kept T.O. wrapped on the ball as he cried tears of joy. Despite Steve Young retiring, Owens' transformation into one of the best and most controversial threats in football was complete. He went into the 2000 season as the Niners' top target and did not disappoint. The year was filled with highlights and talk show moments, none bigger than the infamous Dallas Star game. With a blowout on, Owens caught a TD and immediately sprinted to midfield. T.O. stood on the middle of the Cowboy Star and basked in his own glory. Head to the sky, arms spread out as he rubbed in the touchdown. Cowboy players didn't take it lightly. Emmitt Smith responded with a touchdown and his own sprint to the Star, where he slammed the ball and stared down the Niners sideline. It was on. Okay, it's gonna be a battle. I did it first, then he did. Now stop me. Stop me from doing it again, Owens recounted. T.O. would catch a fade for another score and immediately set his sight on the Star. Owens slammed the ball down on the Star, mocking Emmitt and America's team. But he didn't see Cowboy safety George Teague. Right after he spiked the ball, Teague drilled him mid-celebration. Maybe it was the showboating, maybe it was the whooping T.O. had put on George Teague the entire game. But it was the talk of the sports world. T.O.'s antics got him suspended for a game. For every contentious moment, there's a history-making one as well for Terrell Owens. In Jerry Rice's Niners send-off, it was T.O. that stole the show. He became the first receiver to catch 20 passes in a single game. That broke the then record of 18 receptions that stood for 50 years. 2000 marked the year the league realized the threat Owens posed and the polarizing athlete he would become. His 1,451 yards would be the most in a season T.O. recorded in his illustrious career. "Get your popcorn ready" became the catchphrase of T.O. He knew he was at the top of the game and an in-demand ticket, so he put on a show. So I ask you before we continue, do you have your popcorn ready? You couldn't keep Owens covered, and you couldn't keep his mouth shut. His play kept eyes glued to the TV. In 2001, he caught 16 touchdown passes, and in 2002, he caught 100 passes. But no one talks about that. Rather, they bring up the Sharpie rule. On Monday Night Football, Owens was fired up to give the fans a great show. After he mossed a Seahawks defender and high-stepped into the end zone, he reached into his sock, pulling out a Sharpie, and signed the football. The ball, immediately worth more, was given to the crowd. The moment set the bar for all future end zone celebrations, and it created a new rule. No foreign objects could be used for celebrations again. But it wouldn't be until the 2002 playoffs that T.O. truly left his signature on the game. 9 receptions, 177 yards, and 2 massive touchdowns that sparked a Niners 25-point comeback win over the Giants in the wildcard round. It would be the last great moment for T.O. in scarlet and gold. After an embroiled falling out where Owens questioned his quarterback's sexuality, he forced his way out of San Fran and tried to sign his own free agency deal. He was traded to the Eagles in a 3-team deal. Owens, paired with QB Donovan McNabb, seemed like a dream duo. To say it didn't work out is an understatement. In their first season, the McNabb-Owens combination was undeniable. T.O. was unguardable until his leg was broken from a horse collar tackle, sidelining him for the rest of the year. The Eagles went on to make the Super Bowl, and T.O. put together one of the gutsiest performances we've ever seen. Despite breaking his leg and tearing a ligament in his ankle just 7 weeks before the big game, he defied doctors' orders and suited up. He didn't just suit up, though. He balled out. He caught 9 passes for 122 yards as the Eagles fell short to the Patriots. Multiple medical experts said that if he got hit in the leg the wrong way, it could end his career. This is where controversy strikes with T.O. An extremely selfless act to risk his career for his team is then followed with a diss to his quarterback. That offseason, T.O. felt entitled to a new deal, saying that he should be paid more than McNabb because I'm not the one who got tired in the Super Bowl, he said. This caused a massive rift between the two and between Owens and the Eagles organization. Owens threatened to sit out but did show up for opening week just to be sent home by head coach Andy Reid after an argument, which led to the infamous driveway workout. At his home, T.O. was circled by news reporters and heeded the words his head coach told him: "Stay in shape while you're gone." He was on live TV giving an interview while he did ab crunches and dumbbell workouts. The Eagles' season went south quickly that year. Eagles defensive end Hugh Douglas and Owens got into a massive argument that came to blows. Agreeing to an interview on ESPN, Terrell Owens went on the air and talked nothing about the incident. Instead, when asked about McNabb, Owens refused to back him up. He called him a hypocrite and agreed with Michael Irvin that if Favre was the quarterback, the Eagles would be undefeated. The Eagles suspended Owens and forced him to give a public apology. And in that apology, he refused to acknowledge McNabb at all and definitely didn't apologize. The Eagles decided to move on from Owens, cutting him. So what did he do? He signed with the Eagles' biggest rival, America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. Now Terrell had Tony Romo, who he clearly had the best relationship with. "That's my quarterback, man." The limelight and craziness of Dallas fit T.O. like a glove. They loved him flapping his wings against the Eagles, dropping touchdown donations to Salvation Army on Thanksgiving Day, tossing popcorn in his face, or mimicking Bill Belichick's shady game planning tactics. For the third and final time, Owens led the league in touchdown grabs as a Cowboy in 2007. The team had some of its best success since the 90s. After 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons in Dallas, it came to a screeching halt. Terrell Owens was shockingly cut by the Cowboys. Refusing the finish line of his career, Owens went to Buffalo and became their top target. Owens caught his 1,000th reception and had the longest play of his career. Despite that, he wasn't re-signed, signing with the Cincinnati Bengals. Even at the age of 36, Owens led the Bengals in receiving with 983 yards in just 14 games, when a devastating ACL tear effectively ended the receiver's career. People love to talk about the diva moments of Owens' career: the Niners fallout, McNabb feud, and his over-the-top personality. Many people use the phrase locker room cancer to label T.O.'s career. Despite not being voted in his first 2 years, there is a label you do have to give Owens: Hall of Famer. Not only is T.O. the only player in history to catch a touchdown against all 32 NFL teams, he's the only to catch multiple against every team too. He owns franchise records on all 5 teams he played for. He has statistical greatness that rivals the best to ever step on the gridiron. He's third all-time in receiving yards and touchdowns and is one of only 5 players in the legendary history of the NFL to have 150 TDs. His resume speaks for itself, and if it didn't, T.O. will damn sure let you know just how good he was. Like he says, "I love me some me."